Steve Orich went to Valley Stream Central High School, and he is the first performer of this year's Valley Stream Grant, celebrating the arts, celebrating Valley Stream through the arts. And we have 4 programs set that we're spotlighting musicians, artists, photographers from Valley Stream, and Steve is number 1. We are very happy that he was willing to do this. He is not doing it from on site. He will explain that to you in a minute. And it should be a very nice evening. I have to thank the decentralization grant from New York State, with the assistance of the governor and the state legislature, the Huntington Arts Council. They made this possible because they gave, Steve is a working musician. He needs to get paid. So that's why I have to give them the plug. Okay, Steve. So I am going to let him mute himself, and he is going to start his presentation. Take it away, Steve.
Hello, everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces, people I know from Valley Stream and other places. Thank you, Mamie. Mamie and I went to high school together. That's how we know each other. And then she contacted me about a year ago. I did a brief similar presentation, and she asked me if I would expound on it. So here I am. And it's Orich, not Orich, but that's okay. I'm putting together here is my, let's see, my PowerPoint. It's coming. Here we go. Now, how do I think I have to share first. Share screen, and then, no, I can share the screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so trying to share my screen. Oh, there it is. Okay, now if I do this, Mamie, tell me, can you see that one block there, that one picture?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, here we are. Valley Stream to Broadway, ta-da. I'm going to show a lot of embarrassing pictures of me, so enjoy them. There's the first one. The apocryphal story that my family tells is that when I was 8 years old, we got a piano and I just sat down and started playing it. I don't know if it's true, but it's a great story. And I've always felt a very strong connection to music, especially when it's connected to the theater. My mom always loved the theater. We used to go to Westbury Music Fair. We used to go to Jones Beach Theater every summer, and that was my first exposure to real theater. I went to Howell Road Elementary School with Mamie and with Wendy Solovey and other people who were here. Starting in 3rd grade, I studied the drums. And because of that, I got to play in the band, which was led by Frank Tronzer, and the orchestra, led by Ruth Menrad. I also sang in the chorus, so I got to experience a lot of music. I hope they still have those music programs there. I do not know, but it was really, that was the seed for me to really feel connected with people through music, and also to hear a lot of music, to play a lot of music, and to experience a lot of that. My first experience of being in a show was when we did A Midsummer Night's Dream in Mr. Harnett's 6th grade class. And then I went to Memorial Junior High School, and I studied the trumpet, but I wasn't very good at it. And I taught myself guitar, and I wasn't very good at it, but I still played piano, and I still was making connections with other music things, other instruments. At Memorial, Mrs. Emig was the music teacher, along with Charles Vandervoort and Jack Freimeyer, who I've actually been in touch with over the years. When I was 15, there was an ad in the New York Times that I answered to music direct shows at a summer camp in the Catskills. And when I got to the interview, there were 8 other people there, but they were all in their 20s. And guess who got the job? I did. Hi, Warren. Warren was with me at Camp Mahochi. I music directed shows at summer camps for 4 years, and it was a really great education to work with people, that it wasn't just working by myself, that I was connecting with other people as I worked. It was something very special. It really laid the groundwork for everything that I've done. Then I went to Central High School, another very flattering picture. Look at the swoop in the hair and the sideburns. There was a lot of theater connections at Central. We took class trips to the Shakespeare Festival in Stratford, Connecticut. I remember seeing Othello and seeing Cyril Richard in A Midsummer Night's Dream. There was also an after-school theater group. And we went to the city to see shows. In particular, I saw the original One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest off Broadway. And Lynn Lappin ran the theater department at Central, and I was in cabaret, and I played piano for a production of The Fantastics there. And besides theater, there was the music department. Doug Fiddler was the general music teacher, but I really liked being involved in an actual production. Bert Keller, who was the assistant principal, ran the talent troupe, and I was the pianist. You can see me right over there. Whoops, go back. We put on shows mostly at veterans hospitals, and this was the late 60s, early 70s, and I guess he had some sort of connection because we mostly went to the amputee wards and entertained them, and these were for men who were just back from Vietnam and just a couple years older than us. So it was an emotional experience, but also it was feeling part of a group, and entertaining other people was also very special. After high school, I went to school at Stony Brook, Long Island, studying music composition. I studied orchestration, I studied conducting, but I also started a theater group. This is a review of a show that I did there, another really flattering picture of me. We did productions of The Boyfriend. We did A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, which is a show that I've done at least 5 or 6 times. We did How to Succeed in Business, and we did Company and Jacques Brel, a lot of different productions. And I got to work, again, working with actors directly, working with musicians, making all those connections. In the summers during high school, I started, during college, I started music directing at summer stock theaters. First at the Thomaston Opera House in Connecticut, and then the Lakewood Musical Playhouse in Barnesville, Pennsylvania, as you can see right here. We did 10 shows in 10 weeks. You can see the schedule there. So it means we'd rehearse all day, then at night we'd perform the show that we had rehearsed the previous week. And these were big shows: Music Man, Hello Dolly, Brigadoon, West Side Story, Oklahoma, Oliver. So there was a lot of choreography, there was a lot going on. It was just done with 2 pianos and drums. And at the end of each show, the audience would line up in the back, and they had what was called the Joined It line. And the entire company would walk through, shake hands with all the audience members, and everyone would say, "Joined it, joined it." That was the Joined It line. But the last show of the season that year was Godspell, as you can see right there. And at that time, it was a very new show. It was still running off Broadway at the Promenade Theater. And someone had seen our production, and they reassembled most of the cast to do the show at the Bucks County Playhouse in New Hope, Pennsylvania. That's the program from that. While we were there, another producer saw it. He decided to take the show on the road. So this was a non-union bus and truck tour for 6 months through the United States and Canada, mostly one-nighters. We would arrive in a town at 3 o'clock, and we'd go right to the theater for the sound check. The crew had been driving all night, and they set up the set, the sound, and the lights. Then we'd go back to the motel, check in, grab dinner, go to the theater, do the show, back to the motel, and get on the bus then the next morning and drive to the next town. You really have to love the theater to do a gig like that. After that, I moved to New York City, and I got steady work, mostly playing auditions, because I had a knack for sight reading and sight transposing. I also musical directed a lot of shows out of town at dinner theaters and regional theaters around the country, North Carolina and Vermont and New Hampshire and Connecticut. The first off-Broadway show I music directed was called the New York City Street Show, and then came Potholes. This was a real turning point for me. The composer had written his own orchestrations for the show, and they were terrible. At the first band rehearsal, the director told me that she hated them, and she said, "Can you redo them?" Having never done anything like this on a scale like this, I said, "Of course." So for 2 weeks of previews, I played rehearsals all day, I conducted the show in the evening, and then wrote orchestrations throughout the night. But when we finally got to play my charts, I got wonderful feedback from the musicians and the cast and the production team, so I realized this was something that I was good at. Right after that, I found out that a top music arranger named Don Sebeski was teaching an orchestration class to a small group in a year-long course. His book, The Contemporary Arranger, is like a Bible to arrangers and orchestrators like me, and the opportunity to study with him directly opened up my ears in ways that I had not imagined before. I also took some courses at Manhattan School of Music and Arranging, and I studied synthesizer theory and technology at the New School back in the early 70s, which was something that was not happening anyplace else. And then I got called to conduct a national tour of Annie, and I went on the road again. But this was a first-class production. We were flown everywhere. We were in each city for 2 to 8 weeks, and it was a lot of fun. And when it was over, I got a call for a really fantastic project. A Stephen Sondheim evening. They were doing a benefit for the Whitney Museum, and I was going to play keyboards for the concert and the album and play all the rehearsals with the cast. One day the director called me and he said, "You need to come to Mr. Sondheim's house tomorrow." And when I arrived, I was told there was to be a special unannounced guest that only I would be working with. So I walked into the other room and there was Angela Lansbury. She was going to surprise the audience and the rest of the cast by coming in to sing Send in the Clowns, but she'd never sung it before and she wasn't sure what key she wanted to do it in. So me being a good transposer, I sat at the piano with Steve Sondheim on one side, Angela on the other, and I had to play the song in all 12 keys on the piano on which he wrote it. I worked with Angela, coaching her every week, and then we did the concert. They recorded it as an album, which is quite wonderful. Just having the opportunity to work directly with Steve Sondheim was incredible, an experience like no other I've had. My real goal for many years was to play piano on Broadway, and my first steady opportunity to do that came with the show Baby. But when I finally got the chance to play 8 shows a week on Broadway, it was anticlimactic. The best that I could do was to play the show exactly as I had the night before. Some people enjoy striving for that consistency and that perfectionism, but for me, the whole creative aspect was gone, and I did not want to do that anymore. After Baby, I started to focus more on composing and arranging, not just playing piano. I was offered to orchestrate 2 off-Broadway shows simultaneously, a terrible show called Hamlin and a great show called Personals. And there was one Sunday when my name was in the New York Times Arts and Leisure section twice. This is a clip from that newspaper. Also, having scored a few small films and movies, and I became disillusioned and start again. Having scored a few small films and having become disillusioned with playing on Broadway, I moved to LA to work in film and television. And my first job there was playing all of the auditions for the movie The Little Mermaid. And my second job was playing rehearsals and doing arranging for the Academy Awards show. Pretty exciting. I eventually got to compose, orchestrate, and conduct several TV series and movies of the week like A Very Brady Christmas, which was my first time conducting a large orchestra in a studio in LA. Oh, wait a second, I'm on the wrong slide. There we are. I scored a lot of documentaries for every network, like this one, Jackie O, An Intimate Portrait. I composed music for animation, game show themes, and I even scored Bob Hope's last TV special when he was 93 years old, Laughing with the Presidents. Through a friend, I met another Valley Stream Central alumni named Peter Robinson, who made a wonderful small film called Lunch with Louie. The appeal for me as a composer was that it was a 12-minute film with 1 line of dialogue. So it was basically music throughout, and I had a full orchestra to work with. And here is the opening clip from that movie. fun little movie. I also started orchestrating and conducting albums, mostly with Broadway performers and Broadway theme music. These are some of them. I work with Petula Clark and Helen Reddy and Debbie Gibson, and this album was with Kristen Chenoweth, a lot of different albums. This is, it was a wonderful experience just having a permanent record of the work that I had done also. So I wanted to explain a little bit about what orchestration really is. So this is a large score page. I used to write by hand, but now everything's done on a computer, of course. So if you see the top section, those are where all the lines for the saxes are. And then those are the trumpets. Those are the trombones. That's the rhythm section and the strings and the drums on the bottom. And now I'm going to play a score of this. This is from one of my albums, and you can follow along with the score as you listen to it. Enjoy. That was Debbie Gravitt, who's a Tony-winning Broadway singer. Being back in Broadway mode, I started from doing these albums, I started being offered theater work in LA, where I orchestrated and conducted many shows at the Pasadena Playhouse, including Do I Hear a Waltz, starring Carol Lawrence, the original Maria from West Side Story. I did shows at the Geffen Playhouse, the Mark Taper Forum, where I did Michael Feinstein's Great American Songbook, and I got to play a piano duet with him. I was even vocal director for Bernstein's Mass at the Hollywood Bowl. I also did this production of A Class Act, which I later took to Tokyo and conducted there. It's the first time my bio was in Japanese, you can see there. It was just around then that an old friend from New York called me, and he said he was doing a new show at the La Jolla Playhouse in San Diego, and it was going to be a 5-week run for not a lot of money, and I had to orchestrate, I had to program all the synthesizers, and I even had to do the job of a music copyist. But the 5-week run became 4 months of sold-out performances, and the show was Jersey Boys. Those are the original dates right there, October 5th to November 21st, 2004. But by the time we closed at La Jolla, we had the album deal set as well as everything in place to open on Broadway that fall. It was thrilling to see my name as orchestrator on the boards of a Broadway theater and also in the playbill. And we recorded an album as well. Now, cast albums don't usually sell very well, but this show, we sold 500,000 copies of the album, and I got a gold record. And then the next year, we sold 1 million copies of the album, and I got a platinum record. And then we won the Grammy as Best Show Album. And then came the Tony Awards, and I was nominated for Best Orchestrations. Jersey Boys was nominated for 8 Tony Awards in total. I didn't win, but I got to walk the carpet between Bernadette Peters and Oprah. So not a bad day. And the show won 4 Tony Awards. I used to go to Radio City when I was a kid, spending the whole day there, watching the movie and then the stage show, and then the movie and the stage show back and forth. And one of the first movies I saw there at Radio City was Mary Poppins, which was the first time I heard a live 80-piece symphony orchestra playing. So here I am at the Tony Awards at Radio City, 40 years later, and they get to the last category of the night, Best Musical. And who comes on stage to announce it but Julie Andrews. And we won Best Musical, and I get to go on stage at Radio City with Julie Andrews. Here's a clip from that, and you can look closely, you'll see me walking up on the stage with John Lloyd Young, who won the Tony for playing Frankie Valli. And I don't know how this happened, but somehow I ended up right behind the producer, and I was on camera for most of his speech.
Please welcome Academy Award winner and 3-time Tony-nominated Broadway legend, Julie Andrews. And the 2006 Tony Award for Best Musical goes to Jersey Boys. David.
Thank you. Thank you. On behalf of the entire and most jubilant Jersey Boys family, our profound thanks for this honor. It belongs to so many, I will try and remember a few. It began with Rick Ellis and Marshall Brickman, who wrote this story. With Des McAnuff, who found a unique way to tell it. With Sergio Trujillo, Ron Milrose, an extraordinary cast and company of actors who play it out every night. Most especially our own Christian, Daniel, Bobby, and John Lloyd. And of course, the actual 4 seasons, Bob Gaudio, Tommy DeVito, Nick Massey, Frankie Valli, who with Bob Crew actually lived the story we told and created an extraordinary musical legacy in the process. And then we're fool enough or brave enough to let us tell that story as in a form other than a Valentine. This means a great deal to us tonight, surrounded by so many familiar and friendly faces. Many of you fought in the trenches with us this season, fighting your own respective dreams. We are most happy for Jersey Boys, but we thank and congratulate every single person who stepped onto a Broadway or off-Broadway stage this year, and we welcome this opportunity to celebrate it all. Thank you so very much.
It's been a magical night here at Radio City Music Hall. Thank you for being a part of Tony Award history. And here's to the next 60 years. Wherever you live, please support live theater. Better yet, come to New York and see a Broadway show. It's an experience you'll never forget. We'll see you next year. Good night, everyone. Good night.
Yes, go to New York and see a Broadway show. I still get very choked up every time I see that, obviously. Because we won Best Musical, every city wanted their own Jersey Boys. At one point, we had 8 simultaneous productions around the world: Broadway, London, Las Vegas, Australia, Chicago, Toronto, and touring productions as well. When we had that, almost 100,000 people saw the show live around the world every week. And 17 years later, we still have 4 companies doing the show every night: New York, in London, a US tour, and a UK tour. Because of Jersey Boys, I've got to arrange and orchestrate music for the Tonight Show Band, the David Letterman Band, American Idol, the Tony Awards 3 times, the Marine Corps Band at the White House, the Boston Pops, the New York Pops, an 8-minute medley for the National Symphony that was played on the Capitol lawn on the 4th of July. This is a piece I wrote for the finale of the Tony Awards in 2015.
Jazzy Boys!
Very cool. Since Jersey Boys, I've written arrangements for many, many shows. One of my favorites was a new intimate version of Camelot. It was so well received that the Lerner and Lowe Estates came to see it and have licensed my orchestrations. So we have had many productions around the world in the last few years, and we have many more coming. This year we have one at the Muni in St. Louis, which is an 11,000 seat theater. During shutdown, I did a few streaming video projects, and last fall I did this show called A Turtle on a Fence Post, coming back to live theater for the first time in 2 years. And in May, another show I orchestrated, Romeo and Bernadette, is reopening in New York. I continue to work on fun, interesting projects. I'm going to LA in a couple of weeks to record an album with a big orchestra, and I'll be workshopping a new show in Seattle this summer, and hopefully bring it to New York by next year. Thank you very much. That's my presentation. Anybody here?
Okay, at this point, I've enabled the chat and I will allow people, let me see, to unmute themselves if they want to, but please be respectful. And we are not a huge group, so just try to be respectful. I see Jay Massa has his hand up. So if you'd like to say a few words, please feel free to do that and just be nice. Okay, so Jay Massa, would you want to unmute or say something?
Yes, I have. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Great. I have a two-part question, but firstly, I just want to say congratulations. What a career, and this was so interesting. And my question is about someone similar to yourself who gave a lecture. His name is Thomas Z. Shepard, and he talked about working with Sondheim. And I was wondering what your connections with him, if you have any connections with him firstly, and the other part of my question is if you can reminisce. To me, Stephen Sondheim is a luminary, and that's an understatement. If you can just reminisce about your connection with Mr. Sondheim. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Tom Shepard produced most of the great albums of the 70s, most of the show albums, and he produced the album that I did, the Stephen Sondheim Evening. He was the producer on that. It's you have to have an understanding of the music and of the theater and how to combine it. Show albums are a unique thing. They're not always a direct representation of the show, because sometimes you have snippets of songs, or sometimes they don't make sense, or there's dialogue in between. So we always have to edit them somewhat to make them make sense as an album. From the time I was a kid, somebody's mic is on. Can you mute, please? Thank you. From the time I was a kid, I did Sondheim shows. I did Flaming Hammer on the Way to the Forum several times. And I used to play through the scores and try to understand the music, and meeting him in person. He was an idol in so many ways. And he was so nurturing and so helpful and understanding. And he set a bar in that way where whenever anybody asks for help, I will go out to lunch, I will share information, I will mentor them personally, because that's how this information is passed on. It was the kind of thing, being in a room with him, and someone would say, someone was confused about something, he'd walk over and he'd whisper one sentence in their ear, and it changed everything. He just knew how to tweak things in a different way to make it make more sense. So that was really, he was really a remarkable guy.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure.
If anyone else would like to, speak up, this is an opportunity. We do have a little bit more time.
Questions, comments, complaints? Hi, Chris, I see you waving your hand. Chris and Elisa Serba, let them in. I'll unmute you. You're unmuted. Nope, not yet. I'm asking to unmute you.
There.
There you are.
It's so good to see you.
You
It's
too.
so great. Russell's going to graduate in May. Woo! And those early pictures of you look so much like your daughters. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, funny. Thank you. Thank you. Chris and Elisa, we worked together many, many years ago. We did a show in LA and then at Goodspeed in Connecticut and then off Broadway, and just we're pals. And Chris and my wife share a birthday, and Elisa and I, our birthdays are a couple days off. So
Yeah.
so good to see you guys. Thank
You
you.
too. Hey, Steve, years ago you mentioned how much time you spent with you hanging out with Bob Gaudio, and I thought that'd be a cool thing because I remember it, and I remember hearing about it and how cool it was. when
Thank you.
were
I'll,
develop- yeah.
I'll tell that story. I left it out. So we were going to record the album. Actually, we recorded the album while we were in rehearsal for Broadway because the record label insisted that the album be in the stores before we opened. So as I said a couple of minutes ago, an album is different from the show. We also had a much larger orchestra on the album. We had a full string section. We had more percussionists and guitarists. So I wrote the orchestrations for the album. And then I was headed back to LA, where I lived at the time, to write the orchestrations for the show. And Bob Gaudio, who is one of the Four Seasons, who wrote Sherry, Walk Like a Man, Big Girls Don't Cry. He wrote all of those songs. He comes to me and says, hey, I haven't been in a studio in 10 years. Would you mind staying with me to mix the album? Mind. So I said, of course. So he and I mixed the album together. It was just the two of us and an engineer. And we were there 16 hours a day for 2 weeks, going through finessing every number and every note and every sound and every balance. And obviously it paid off with that album winning the Grammy and selling so many copies. But, I don't know if anyone's experienced this situation. When you spend a lot of time with someone, you start to see the world the way they do. Like if you're in a room with someone, then you start to see things the same way. When you're in a studio spending that much time, you start to hear the same way. So you're hearing through their ears, and we like connected on that same way. We just heard the same things at the same time. It was a remarkable experience. I saw him again. I forgot to mention this. I saw him again last July. We just shot a new Jersey Boys movie in July, shot in a theater with the entire creative staff. No one from the cast because they're all too old. We had the original band who played the show on Broadway, and playing Frankie Valli was Nick Jonas. And it's going to be on a streaming service later this year. So that was, and again, I got to connect with Bob and Sergio and Des. All the original creative staff was there last summer. It was really very exciting. Thank you, guys.
Let me see who else.
Hello.
Lori.
Yeah, you don't think I was going to miss this as soon as I saw that. I was like running around like, oh my God. I saw that like an hour ago, and I'm like emailing and calling. How can I get on this Zoom call? I have to be on this Zoom call. And they're like, no problem. Here we go. Here's your link. You're good to go. I wasn't going to miss it for the world when I saw that.
Thank you. I've known Lori for like 40 years now, and she's seen a lot of those shows that I've done. So thank you, Lori.
We're not that old. I'm sorry. No, you didn't. No. But it was really fun to see those early pictures, and it's sort of bizarre to see my sister's name on that program. That was fun. So you have lots of stories. I've heard some of them. There are always 1,000 more I want to hear, and hopefully I'll hear them next time I'm in Sarasota. But so it's just a question, because it's hard to come up with a question for you. It's hard from me anyway. So talking about all your orchestrations, all one of the things you've done, and it's some of which I didn't know. It was just, I loved every minute of hearing all those stories. So who did the orchestrations for the Tony Award Jersey Boys when you won?
I did.
Who do it?
I did all of those.
No. I meant for your walk-on for the event. Did you get to do that too?
Yes, because.
Cool.
Yes, thank you for asking that. No, when a show's doing the Tony Awards, they contact the orchestrator because it's going to be different, and you actually record all the stuff in advance as a backup with the Tony Orchestra, and then they have them live in case something happens, in case they can always hit the button and make it go out. So yeah, it was mine. Thank you.
Thought I'd ask. You didn't mention it, so I thought, think I'll ask.
We have someone in the chat who said, what is your favorite show on Broadway and off Broadway right now?
Well, it's Jersey Boys, actually. No, you know, the shows that I've seen most recently that I really enjoyed are Dear Evan Hansen and Come From Away, both fantastic shows. There's some new stuff that's opening that I haven't seen yet. I'll be in New York in a couple of months, and I'll see what's there then. Oh, you saw Paradise Square? Yes, I heard all about that. Elisa, you asked about credited as O-I-R-I-C-H. I will tell this story because this is also related to Mr. Sondheim. The name that I was given at birth was spelled O-I-R-I-C-H. Looks like Orich, but we pronounced it Orich, the same way I do now. That's just the way we were brought up. My dad was born in, I just recently found out, he was born in Ukraine. I thought he was born in Russia, but the area where the town that he's from is in Ukraine. At the time, it was Russia. Anyway. So O-I-R-I-C-H versus O-R-I-C-H. When I met Steve Sondheim, introduced myself, and he asked me to pronounce my name, and he asked how I spelled it. And he said, you spell your name one way and you pronounce it another way. You should probably figure out a way to make that make more sense. I took his advice, and a couple of years later, I changed my name legally. I dropped the I, so it was based on his suggestion. But thank you for that.
Okay. Does Fred has his hand up? Does he want to say something?
Yes. First, you've had an extraordinary career, so impressive.
Thank you.
I have a two-part question. Other than, let's say, Sondheim, are there any musical celebrities whom have impressed you, whom you may admire very greatly? And conversely, are there any musical celebrities you've worked with who've been very difficult to be with?
I'll answer the second question first. I won't tell you. It's just not appropriate. Yes, there are definitely some uncomfortable people, some unpleasant people that I've spent time with. As far as the more pleasant people that I've been with, you know, most people are, when you're in an environment where everyone's trying to contribute to a show in many different ways, everyone gives their all, everyone is nice and amicable, and it's a real family. It's an interesting thing about doing a show also, because you are thrown together with a group, and it could be 20 people or it could be 100 people, and you spend days and days and hours of intimate time sharing emotional things, friendship, being creative together, and you create this real family. And then the show ends and you dissipate, and that group is never together again. And the people that you connect with, that you want to feel connected with, obviously you stay connected to them after that. You know, I've had the good fortune to work with a lot of very famous composers. I worked with, I can't even name the list of who I've worked with, but as far as singers, one singer in particular, a woman named Judy Kay, who was on the Sondheim album, and then I became her music director. We did concerts in New York, and then I orchestrated 2 albums for her, and she's delightful. She's won several Tony Awards, and she was just in the show Diana, but she won a Tony Award for Phantom, and she's done the original Mamma Mia. She was in On the 20th Century. She was a really outstanding performer, and you know, you learn something from everyone you're with.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have another question.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. I've always been a huge fan of Maltby and Shire, and I didn't realize that you had worked with them. What's that like?
That was kind of extraordinary. David Shire is one of the most wonderful composers and proficient pianists I have ever been around. We should put him on that list from the previous question. I did the workshop with Baby, where he would come in each day with a pencil written brand new score of a show with a brilliant piano part, beautifully written, beautifully laid out. And he was just a very generous, very giving man. In case you don't know him, he wrote the show Baby. He also wrote Starting Here, Starting Now. As a film composer, he won the Oscar for the song It Goes Like It Goes, which was from that movie with Sally Field about the unions, not remembering the name of it.
Mama Ray?
Mama Ray, thank you. He also was nominated for an Oscar for the movie The Conversation, which had a lot of, with Gene Hackman, that was his first movie. He was also married to Talia Shire, so that's how he made a connection. That's how he got to do the Conversation, which Coppola directed. But he was, and Richard Maltby also was, I worked with him on Baby, and then he directed another show that I worked on. Just, you know, these are, when you're a career professional, you have to do good, you have to be nice, you have to be creative, and you just give your all to whatever project you're working on. Sure. Which again set a good example for me because I've tried to do the same thing.
And I just want to add my agreement on, you know, you when you work on a show, you create a family. And I usually say, when I describe that, when you say everybody dissipates or disappears, I say we all get a divorce, and it's the hardest thing, because, and you just hope that you're going to get back together with when you get to do it again. It's so special, that thing you get to have with everybody. It's so special. And at the end of each show, you realize this exact group of people will never be in the same room
again.
Absolutely.
So much time together. So yeah, it is something interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Steve.
Hi, Steve. This is Karina, your local reporter. I was wondering what you would say to the future generation that's in Valley Stream right now, that's thinking about getting into something like this, but they're maybe a little iffy on it.
Oh, good question, Karina. Thank you. I think one of the secrets is to listen to a lot of music and keep yourself open and keep yourself available to understand what's going on. You know, just like I think in any endeavor, having a wide variety of information from different sources, that way you can pick and choose and find what it is you like. And being in Valley Stream, it's very convenient because you're so close to the city. You hop on the LIRR, or you take the bus over to Jamaica and take the subway, and you get into the city and you can see any Broadway show, which is pretty wonderful, having that access. That's what made me feel very connected to the city and connected to the business.
Okay. Thank you so much. Wonderful presentation.
Thanks, Karina.
Wendy, do you want to say something?
I do.
Hi,
Hi,
Wendy.
Steve. Hi, Mamie.
Hi.
There's a few of us here who have known each other for maybe over 60 years. Howell
Absolutely.
Road. I might have even been in your kindergarten class.
This is Schwabel.
Schwabel? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you were. Okay,
So we were 5. Okay.
since we were
Well,
5.
Steve, music talented he was from an early age. He was just a really creative person. And it was just so wonderful to see that his career took off, because everybody who knew him then just thought he was fantastic, so artistic, just fantastic in acting, so many things. So it's really exciting to see you many years later doing wonderful things.
Thank you, Wendy. That's so sweet of you. I appreciate that, especially someone that we worked on a project together.
We were a puppet show, right?
Yes, about Arachne.
Right, the spider.
Please come back. Okay, fine, yes. All right, thank you, Wendy, I appreciate
Good luck. Keep us posted of everything you're doing in the future.
Of course.
Steve,
One second. Christine, I graduated in 1972, the same year as Mamie and the same year as Wendy. Yes, hello.
it's Ellen Kravitz.
Hi, Ellen.
Hello.
Your name wasn't on there. Okay, so Ellen was in the art class also. I didn't recognize, I guess Freddie's your nickname? No, I'm kidding.
Ignore that. So I would just add, and hi, Mamie, I would just add to what Wendy said. We knew from an early age that you had a talent, and you mentioned Mr. Harnett and A Midsummer Night's Dream. And Wendy has kept me informed through the years, and I've watched some of your accomplishments, and it makes Valley Stream proud. And you've really had an incredible career. And it's just wonderful to see all of the individual growth that you've had. And it's just, it does our heart good. It's really, really wonderful.
Thank you, Ellen.
So,
That's so sweet of you to say. And you know, connecting with people that you knew from back then, it really brings the whole thing together. And you know, as I was saying, there's talent. Everyone has different kinds of talent. You also have to persevere. You also have to work hard. You have to believe in yourself. And the other thing is that you need to be kind. You need to be nice to people, because if you're, pardon my language, but I'm not going to say anything too wrong, Mamie, don't worry. But as they say in the theater, that if you're in a group and if you can't find the asshole, it's probably you. So you need to be nice. You can't be mean. Otherwise, you're not going to work. People aren't going to rehire you. So be kind. Do your best work every time, no matter how big or small. Always give it your all. When I was doing Jersey Boys at La Jolla, it was 5 weeks. Oh, well, yeah, I guess so. No, I gave every inch of myself into it, and everyone else did. And that's what elevated the project to what it was, because you never know. So there it is. Nice seeing you, Ellen. Thank you.
kindness goes a long way. You've got that right.
Indeed. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Jill Massa has her hand up. Does she want to say something?
Yes, I just had another question. I admire Kristen Chenoweth, and I know she studied opera, and I had a chance to meet her before she became famous, and you had mentioned working with her. I was just wondering if you can talk about that, and also, did you ever work with Rebecca Luker?
Jill, I think you muted yourself.
Oh, wait,
No.
wait. Hold on. Can you hear
Hello?
me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Can
Okay,
you hear me?
I can hear you. She wanted to know if
Okay.
you worked with
Rebecca Luker.
Kristen Chenoweth. Your experience working with Kristen Chenoweth, and also, did you ever work with Rebecca Luker?
I think that maybe Steve's lost.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Sorry, I disappeared. I fell off. I don't know what happened.
yes. Okay, so she asked about Kristen Chenoweth and Rebecca Luker.
Yes, I will share about both of them. One of the albums that I did, I think I showed, was called You Never Know. It was a show with Kristen Chenoweth, and it was a show that I had done at the Pasadena Playhouse a few years before, and it starred Megan Mullally. But when we did the album, Megan wasn't available because she was shooting Will and Grace. So we found this unknown person named Kristen Chenoweth. So I sent her the score in advance, and then she came to my house. We were going to go through to rehearse before we did the album. So she walks in and I said, did you get to study? She said, I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to look at it. I said, okay, well then I'll teach you, we'll go through it. And she read it and she sang it letter perfect from start to finish. I said, and this is somebody I did not know because no one knew who she was. I said, how did you do that? And she said, well, I have a master's in opera performance. So she was embarrassed about that. But yeah, she was delightful. I wrote a chart for Rebecca on one of my albums, and I just met her very briefly, and I know her husband as well. We were nominated for a Tony the same year. A tragic story. She passed away a couple of years ago. Yes, again, a massive talent. And, you know, I don't know what else to say about that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much, Steve. It was a very informative program. I think that you gave us an insight on what theater is like, music theater. And it's not a world that we may have know much about. So it was, to me, it was very, very interesting. And I'm going to stop recording so that if you want to chat a little bit, you don't have to feel like you have personal things going on. Okay.